Candace goes to bed after evening. Hours later, she wakes in darkness, asks to rise, and is told that everyone else is still asleep. Then Chaucer gives the moment a name. She had slept her first sleep. Those three words create an immediate problem. If there was a first sleep, was there a second? And if there was, what happened in the darkness between them? That question has produced one of the most repeated claims about medieval life. People slept for several hours, woke for a calm interval, then returned to bed until morning. It is a beautiful story. It is also much harder to prove than it sounds. Picture a colder room, a bed behind you, weak coals ahead, no clock on the wall, no blue light from a window. You wake, but nothing outside tells you that the night is over. Do you add wood to the fire? Whisper to someone beside you? Pray? Wait? Or simply return to bed? The moment is easy to imagine because waking at night is universal. The schedule is harder because Chaucer does not show Candace beginning a second sleep. He gives us a phrase and a human scene, not a timetable for an entire continent. The phrase is medieval. The perfect schedule is modern. To understand what first sleep really meant, we have to follow it out of the bedroom and into places where nobody is sleeping at all. In 14th century Italy, Giovanni Boccaccio uses the phrase almost like a position on the nighttime clock. A traveler named Pietro becomes trapped in a tree after dark. During first sleep, wolves emerge from the forest and surround his horse. Pietro clings to the branches and watches the animal disappear beneath them. In another tale, Guiscardo crawls from a hidden passage during first sleep and is seized by men waiting in the darkness. Elsewhere, a nervous young man is ordered to sit beside a raised tomb outside Santa Maria Novella during first sleep and wait for someone to collect him. A forest. A secret passage. A graveyard. The scenery changes, but the phrase keeps performing the same task. It tells people when danger is supposed to begin. None of these men has to sleep, wake, and enter a peaceful midnight interval. Pietro is stranded above wolves. Armed men are waiting for Guiscardo. The man beside the tomb is forcing himself to remain awake. First sleep was not only something a body could experience, it was also a place inside the night. That makes the expression historically valuable. Boccaccio does not pause to explain it. His characters act as if the audience already knows where first sleep belongs. It may also explain why first sleep appears in scenes of secrecy and danger. The phrase marks a point when households have settled and roads have emptied. A person planning an ambush does not need everyone to wake later. They only need everyone else to be asleep now. But that same use weakens the simple two-sleep story. A named first portion of the night does not automatically prove that everyone woke afterward and later returned to bed. The words are becoming clearer. The bodies are becoming harder to predict. Now move from the roadside and the graveyard into a sleeping religious house. One brother opens his eyes while the others remain still. He rises because prayer requires it, not because the entire household has entered a normal waking period. This is the problem hidden inside many old references. A text may show someone awake after first sleep. But why are they awake? Did the body wake naturally? Did a bell call them? Was there danger, devotion, illness, work, noise, cold, or simple restlessness? And after that waking, did a distinct second sleep actually begin? Often the page goes silent. That silence is not empty evidence. It is a limit. We can reconstruct possibilities around a documented awakening, but we cannot quietly add a second sleep because the phrase seems to demand one. Medieval German writings contain references to a first sleep, yet the clearer examples of people rising between sleep periods are closely tied to religious observance. The waking is documented. The universal household schedule is not. Later, English evidence expands the argument. Historian Roger Ekirch has gathered a large body of references that he believes reveals a widespread pattern of first sleep, wakefulness, and second sleep. Historian Niall Boyce has challenged parts of that reading. The same terms, he argues, can mark an early or late portion of the night, a brief disturbance, sleeplessness, an obligation, or simply the time when an event occurred. The dispute matters. But the human problem underneath it is simple. Someone opens their eyes in darkness. That moment is real. What happens next is often missing. People clearly woke during the night. Some writers clearly named a first sleep. Some individuals may have slept in two substantial blocks. But the tidy formula repeated online, 4 hours asleep, 2 awake, 4 asleep again, is more exact than the medieval evidence allows. The manuscripts show us language, action, and interruption. They cannot place Europe inside one bed. So the story changes scale. We leave parchment, bells, and candlelight behind and enter a modern room built to remove almost everything from the night. A volunteer walks into darkness in the early evening. There is no animal outside, no child calling, no field work to finish, no fire to tend. The room is controlled, quiet, and deliberately uneventful. 14 hours of darkness wait ahead. At first, sleep expands. Then the night divides. The volunteer sleeps for several hours, wakes before morning, remains awake for a time, and later falls into another substantial period of sleep. Other participants begin to show the same shape. Sleep, wakefulness, sleep again. During the interval, the volunteer is not fighting an alarm or forcing the eyes open for work. The body has already completed one substantial sleep, yet the person remains surrounded by hours of darkness. Eventually, sleep pressure builds again. For the person inside the room, this is not a chart. Morning has not arrived, yet the first heavy pressure to sleep has passed. The night suddenly feels as if it has two separate centers. In the early 1990s, psychiatrist Thomas Wehr produced this pattern by shortening the participants' period of light and lengthening their nights. The waking interval often lasted between 1 and 3 hours. For the first time, the missing space between two sleeps appears clearly. But the empty room is not just the setting, it is part of the evidence. These volunteers are not returning from fieldwork, sharing a crowded home, caring for children, hearing dogs outside, or rising for prayer. Ordinary life has been removed so that long darkness can act almost alone. The experiment proves that the human body can divide a long night. It does not prove that medieval Europe did. Possibility is not prevalence, and once that difference appears, the laboratory can no longer answer the next question. Real nights are not empty rooms. The sun drops over a Hadza camp in Tanzania. Darkness arrives, but sleep does not immediately begin. People remain awake into the evening. The air cools. Activity slows. Only later does the main sleeping period begin. Before sunrise, people are already starting to wake. Nothing about the scene resembles a strict command from sunset. Darkness surrounds the camp for hours before the body commits to sleep. The evening remains social and active, then gradually becomes a sleeping world. Researchers found a similar broad pattern among the San in Namibia and the Tsimane in Bolivia. These communities are not medieval survivors, and they are not frozen images of humanity's past. But they allow one useful test. Without electric light, does sleep automatically split into two long blocks? In this study, it did not. Sleep usually began several hours after sunset. The night was generally organized around one main sleeping period rather than two equal blocks, separated by a long, regular interval. The result changes the scale again. The body is not responding to darkness like a switch. It is responding to a whole environment. Temperature falls, work ends, people talk, children settle, animals move. Morning obligations wait. Darkness opens the night. It does not write the schedule. Still, three communities cannot settle the question for everyone. On the other side of the comparison, a small agricultural community in Madagascar produces a very different night. A household sleeps. After midnight, movement returns. Someone rises. Another person shifts through the darkness. Activity appears across the community, then fades and sleep resumes. The pattern returns often enough for researchers to describe the sleep as segmented. Daytime naps are also common. This is not a perfectly timed ritual repeated by every person, but it is more than one sleeper briefly rolling over. The middle of the night repeatedly becomes active enough to appear at the level of the community. Here the old story seems to step off the page. Sleep, wakefulness, sleep again. Then the scene moves to Tanna Island in Vanuatu, where the night breaks for different reasons. A baby cries, a dog barks, someone wakes, listens, moves, and lies down again. Most participants reported waking during the night, but across more than 500 recorded nights, only a small minority formed two clear sleeping bouts. Even those divided nights appeared irregularly rather than returning at one stable hour. This difference is the center of the entire episode. Waking is not the same as living by a system of two sleeps. A sensor can detect movement. It cannot automatically tell us whether someone has entered a recognized waking interval, responded to a child, listened for danger, changed position, or remained awake only briefly. Madagascar showed a strong recurring after-midnight pattern. Tanna showed frequent waking, but only occasional divided nights. Both communities lived with limited electric light. They still produced different nights. No electricity did not reveal one ancestral schedule. It revealed human flexibility. Electricity changed part of the picture. On Tanna, access to light allowed evening activity to continue longer, and sleep generally began later. But electricity did not erase one universal ancient pattern. There was no single pattern to erase. Now return to the medieval room. The fire has weakened. The window remains black. Someone nearby may still be asleep. Elsewhere, a bell may call a religious community to prayer. In another house, a child may be crying. On a road, in a forest, or beside a tomb, someone may be waiting for first sleep because other people will be less alert. The same darkness can hold very different forms of wakefulness. One person wakes because the body is ready. Another because duty demands it. Another because danger, noise, cold, prayer, or another human body has interrupted the night. The visual moment may look identical. Open eyes, dark room, bed nearby. The cause and meaning may be completely different. This is why the sources seem to disagree when we force them to answer the same question. The medieval stories tell us what people could name and when actions were expected to occur. The laboratory shows what a body can do inside a very long, controlled night. The field studies show what happens when bodies, temperature, work, animals, children, habits, and light all meet inside real communities. Each source changes the meaning of the one before it. The phrase suggests a schedule. The stories turn it into a nighttime marker. The laboratory proves the body can divide the night. The communities prove that it does not always do so. None of them gives us a universal medieval timetable. Together, they give us something more useful. For some medieval Europeans, waking while the world remained dark may not have carried the same immediate meaning it carries for many people today. It did not necessarily announce morning. It did not always mean the night had failed. In some settings, wakefulness could still belong inside the night. That does not make segmented sleep healthier, superior, or secretly designed to improve memory or creativity. It makes human sleep flexible, and it makes the medieval phrase first sleep meaningful without forcing every reference into the same routine. So what happened between two sleeps in medieval Europe? Sometimes, perhaps prayer, a household obligation, a conversation, a few quiet moments before sleep returned. Sometimes there may have been no recognized interval at all. First sleep could simply locate an event inside the earlier part of the night. The documents prove that people could name a first sleep. The laboratory proves that a long night can divide human sleep. The communities measured in modern field studies prove that darkness does not divide every night in the same way. Return once more to the person beside the dying fire. The room has not changed. The bed is still behind them. The window is still dark. But the meaning of the moment has changed. This person is not proof of a universal medieval routine. They are not performing a lost sleep ritual. They are simply awake inside a night that may not yet be considered broken. For them, the question may not have been, why can't I sleep? It may simply have been, is it time to go back? If you enjoy evidence-led stories about how ordinary medieval life really worked, subscribe to Medieval Stick Stories. It helps us keep turning overlooked details into complete human stories.